There are three things that I want to tie together in today's episode. The first one is the video game Mewgenics, which was recently released. It is made by Ed McMullen, the creator of The Binding of Isaac. It's great. It's kind of gross. It's about cat breeding, and it is a turn-based, tactical, roguelike kind of think Final Fantasy Tactics combat. It's very good, and it's been extremely enjoyable for the little bit of time that I've spent with it. So I want to talk about that. And in thinking about this episode, I realized that I also want to talk about a poem by Robert Frost. I'm not talking deep literary discussion of it, but I want to relate it back to all this. And the poem is The Road Not Taken, which you're probably aware of, even if you don't realize you're aware of it. They're big cultural ideas that kind of permeate through culture from this poem. And then the last thing I want to talk about is tied into both of those, and it is the idea of invisible consequences, the idea of not noticing the impact of your actions. Not exactly fear of missing out, although that is related to this, but the things that happen as a result of your choices that you do not notice and do not attribute to your decision making. And I find all of these things very interesting, and I find them all to be quite tied together. And even Mewgenics, the gameplay of Mewgenics, there are so many cascading consequences that I think you don't really notice until you get enough experience, I assume. But I just from the structure of the game, I can tell that there's so many little things in there that you could have done differently that would have led to completely different results. So this is what I'm interested in today, and that is what we are going to dive into. I am your host, Chris, and this is Game, Develop, Repeat. As always, thank you for listening. Let's start by talking about cat eugenics. This game, Mewgenics, Mewgenics, is brilliant and disturbing and is such a good satire. It does something that great satires really pull off, which is it's incredibly insensitive while being completely lighthearted and not at all mean-spirited. And that is something that people get wrong so often. People really will be incredibly insulting and mean and demeaning and then go, "Oh, you can't take a joke?" And it's like, well, I can take a good joke, but you're not really, there's no depth to this. Mewgenics does the bit of giving a cat a disorder, and then instead of just focusing on the negative side of it, it gives it a positive too. And there's a beautiful layer of humor laced inside of it while also making those cats extremely useful. So you will have a cat with a disorder that like people would normally view quite negatively, and then it acknowledges the positive sides of it. Your cats can have autism, ADHD, Down syndrome. Your cats can have conditions that make them unable to resist eating poop. And if your cat is unable to resist eating poop, then every time it eats poop, it heals a little bit. But also, you didn't have control of its turn, so you're like, "Oops, that cat is really screwing me." But maybe it puts itself in a very good position. Maybe you can use a different cat to put poop in a good spot so that the cat automatically goes where you want it, heals, and then is ready to go for combat. There is some cool stuff that you can do in this game by navigating the disabilities and medical conditions and different diseases and things that your cats contract. And then there are a few things that are just straight up negatives, but you can have a lot of control over that. And it's stuff like a broken rib, right? It's like, oh, your cat got too injured, and now they permanently have this debuff, and there's no positive side to it. They've just lost strength because they broke their paw and you didn't heal it. But the number of possibilities in this game is crazy. It is like I'm like maybe 5 hours in, right? But it immediately became clear that there are just a cascading number of options and strategies and tactics that you can do here, right? From the first level that I started playing, I was like, oh, wait, I can hit that rock and it'll go flying across the map. Okay, well, that's not the way that I'm going to play necessarily. I prefer to focus on hitting I'm not that positional with the way I play, but I do have to avoid that because the enemy can do that. Oh, I can have this cat have this sort of teleportation ability that I can then use to reposition other cats. I can do so many different things, man. And there are so many times when I do a move in this game and then immediately go, "Oh, no take backsies. I can't control Z that because I just had another idea." That's okay though, cuz I can roll with this. Everything that I do, I go, I can roll with this. I can do this. I can do that. There's just so many options, and they're all pretty fun. Now, this ties into game development and this poem that I want to talk about in so many ways. I know that this is like a very deranged Chris moment of going, oh, Mewgenics, this game about cat breeding. Let's talk about how it connects to the idea of making choices while developing a game and like developing the competence to figure out that you can navigate it whatever way you want to. And also, let's throw in this like it's a very me having a scattered brain kind of thing, but we're doing it. There's 3 lines at the end of Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken that I have a tendency to think of as like the big cultural idea that people have grasped onto from this poem. Those 3 lines are, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that the way that people tend to interpret this is you should take the road less traveled by. It's the thing you should do. It's more adventurous. It's more exciting. It's cooler. Do the road less traveled by, right? But right now, I'm looking at it and I'm going, yeah, maybe. But maybe all it's saying is if you take one particular road, that's going to make a difference. Whichever way you go, it's going to make a huge difference. It doesn't really matter which way you're going, but what's really interesting to do and what matters is noticing that the way you chose did make a difference. And I know this seems like kind of a stating the obvious thing, but I don't think it is. I think this is one of those little things in life that sneaks itself into the back of your head and goes, yeah, go ahead and take me for granted. Don't ever think about this. Don't worry about this. Don't ponder this idea because it makes life too complicated. Just say, yeah, sure, of course. And then every time that you make a decision, let it go a little bit. Let go of this whole idea that you could have done something else. Have you ever noticed this? When you make a choice, that becomes the only way it could have gone. Maybe it needs a little time and space, but at some point, it goes from a choice that you made that had consequences to the only thing that could have happened. You know? And I think that is a very interesting thing to look at in terms of game design. Because if we fall into that, if we go, this is the way that it's designed, and that's just it, that's done, it's finished, we're building off of that foundation, that can have a great effect on us. That it can make us finish a game, it can help us move forward, it can help you complete a project. But at the same time, if it becomes your instinct, if it becomes your go to method to not question your designs, to say this is the way it's going to be, it's locked in, let's go, then you can trap yourself very quickly. You can say this game is built on this foundation one way or another, and you can back yourself into a corner, not necessarily in terms of the work that you have to do, although that as well, but in terms of your ability to make decisions about your project. I think that it can feel as though it can feel as though there's only one way to make this game and I have to make it this way. And is it good or is it bad? I don't know. I just have to finish making it. But as a designer, your job is to look around and find all of the options. There are two roads in this poem, but there's also regions of woods that you could dive into and start chopping away at with a machete, and that might be your instinct. And maybe you ought to go onto one of the roads for once, or maybe you ought to go off to the side. Maybe you know that there's a road 20 yards to the left that you can't see because there's some bushes in the way and some trees. And if you just navigate properly through all that crap, then you'll get to that road and you'll have easy days getting to where you're trying to get to. But you have to go through that hard little chunk of work to take that shortcut. The point I'm trying to make is, as a designer, you gotta look at the little unintended consequences of what you did. You gotta look at it and go, okay, great, I'm taking this path. What other paths were there or are there? And now it's hard for me to balance when to make the decision and go, okay, boom, committed, we are going. And when to go, we're going to circle back a little bit and we're going to go the other way. We're going to explore that a little bit, so on and so on. Now, here's the bigger part. You gotta, the beginning of this poem. Let's look at the beginning of the poem. One line specifically I want to look at. I'll read the first, stanza, first verse, I don't know, first 5 lines. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. When we are learning to develop a game, when we are learning to create some project, when we're first working on something, we are looking down the path as far as we can to the point where the path bends and curves and, there's the undergrowth, and that's going to be tough, but that's all I can see. And sometimes we look down that path and we see the undergrowth and we go, well, I can't see further than that, but this looks like it's going to be a real tough time. Or we look down the path and we go, this looks like it's going to be so easy and smooth. But you don't know until you get to that turn. You don't know until you get far enough down the path to see what comes next, and you don't know which one you're going to enjoy. We can pretend that we know where we're going, but we can only see so far in any project that we're working on, and really we can't see that far at all. So how do you decide which road to take? You have to take it. You know, this is the most annoying conclusion. And this is one of the things that really, really feels like it sucks about creating things. And let me assure you, it does not actually suck. It feels like it sucks. But once you get into it, it's kind of the greatest thing. It's kind of the point of it. It kind of feels amazing. And that is, you will not have any freaking clue what you're doing until you try it. You have to figure out which road you want to take by taking the road. You have to waste, in quotes, hours and hours of your life exploring and figuring it out and just trying stuff and going, what the heck is this going to do? What is that going to do? What in the world? I just want to get to where I'm trying to get to. This is why I think being extremely being extremely financial goal-oriented or success goal-oriented can be a big problem, because then you start assessing your paths. Then you start going, how do I get there fastest? But you have no idea. You have no clue. These are not clear, consistent paths. This is not a situation where you look down the road and you go, oh, this is going to be a nice, clear journey with a couple tiny obstacles. You start walking down that path, and then all of a sudden there's a friggin' brick wall in your way. You start walking down the other path, and you go, yeah, I got to carry a machete with me and chop some vines, but there's no giant brick wall at any point, right? Like, there's some guy at a gate with a key, and he's like, you can't go through this gate. Like, there's all sorts of weird things you run into. Now, ideally, you have a mentor that guides you through these, but in the creative process, you're going to hit some stuff that you have to go through, right? You're going to hit some things that are about you, and sometimes people can help you navigate that, and sometimes not. But that is the joy, and being extremely goal-oriented can take some of that joy out of it. You are exploring your mind and the art of creating some particular thing simultaneously. And we can take this and we can learn some tools, and we can sharpen our tools, and we can do what we need to make this journey easy. You don't want to go into the woods with a rusty machete that has no edge, nothing to sharpen it with, no food, no camping gear, no nothing. You're just out in the woods in the cold. It's raining. It's in the middle of winter. You're leaving at the wrong time. And you don't want to do that. You're going to quit. Of course you are. And you should, because you're putting yourself in a horrific state of conditions. But you can go on a tiny little winter hike if you want to. You can go out there with the warm clothes. You can go out there for a little 30-minute walk. You can do whatever to start figuring out what you're going to need for the longer version of it. And that is huge, because you can start to get to know the conditions of creativity. And I mean that in terms of like physical conditions, the conditions of going out on a hike. How is the weather? The conditions of creating something. How is this on my brain? How is this on the skills that I have, on the tools that I have? Am I going and exploring an entire mountainside while wearing freaking Crocs? Or wait, what was it? One of my buddies went and climbed a mountain wearing Vans, like beat up old Vans shoes. That didn't go well for him. He did it. But you think he's going to go hiking a lot more after that? No, he's probably going to have to take a break for at least a month. Right? He did like hiking, so he hiked more other times. That was just one bad decision after many other good hikes. But you want to, if you're wearing Vans, right? If you're waking up in the morning exhausted and having no energy and having none of the tools that you need, no creative skills for the project you're taking on, maybe just do a small little skill practice kind of a project rather than a huge mapping expedition to the top of a mountain peak. The point that I'm really, really trying to drive home here for myself and for others is that there are two parts that we can divide here. There's the exploration itself. There's the project. We're trying to make this thing. We're trying to map out this territory. We're trying to do something and finish it and all that stuff. And then there's what you are bringing to that exploration, to that project, to that journey, that adventure, and what you can and cannot improve along the way. You can go in there with the correct gear and equipment and skills. You can go in there knowing how to forage for berries so that you can sustain yourself through the whole journey, right? That would be knowing where to look for researching some roadblocks that you run into. Researching when you hit something where you go, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's you foraging for berries. Or you can go in there and just go, I'll just eat random freaking berries. Congratulations, you're taking the wrong advice from the wrong people and just consuming poison, right? You're going, how do I enjoy creating something? Oh, this guy says that if I use this AI tool, it'll make me really have a lot of fun creating this thing. And then it seems like it's a good idea, and you start really chugging down that AI tool, and then you get to a point in your project where you're like, why does everything not really interest me right now? And it all just looks wrong, and like it's kind of like, yeah, I had fun, I guess, making it, but it was kind of, I don't know, I don't really feel like I own it. I don't really feel like I know where I'm going with it. I'm not saying that AI tools are universally bad, but I am saying there are tons of pieces of advice out there, and I wanted to use that to paint a particular example, but there's tons of advice out there, probably including stuff that I've said or will say, that does not apply to you or to your project or is just straight up bad, right? And you need to know where to find the information that you need. You need to know how to forage for berries. You need to know how to chop down a tree that's in your way. What's the tree that's in your way? Is it an art asset? Do you have a guy with you who chops down these trees for you? Or do you have a very, very nice axe? Are you able to just tear through trees because you have been doing art for 10 years and you've been doing it really well? Music, can you handle that? Do you know what it sounds like when a bear is creeping up on you in terms of creating your game? Do you know the sound of, oh God, I'm gonna die, in terms of a creative project? That's scope creep, baby. Do you know? Can you hear that bear coming, turn around and yell at it, and it'll run away from you? Sorry, I'm thinking specifically of a hike that I went on in Olympic National Park, or close to it, where we started going on a hike on our first day hiking, and we're talking whatever, and we just see a bear start running away from us. And I was like, oh, right, this is not the East Coast. This is not the hikes that I'm used to. There's just bears everywhere here. And they're basically giant dogs that run away from you, right? Like they're just like, that particular trail hadn't had a bear attack in forever because the bears are terrified of people. But do you know how to scare the bear away? Do you know how to avoid that moment of, oh, here comes the scope creep. Oh, here comes that feeling of, I absolutely do not want to implement this feature, or that moment of burning out, right? Do you know when you're getting lost in the woods? Do you know how to find the trail again? These skills are not things that you develop by just reading about it. Now, that knowledge is helpful. You want to read about how to tell which berries are poisonous, right? You want to have a map. You want to know these things, but you need to know how to read the map. And you need to have some hands-on experience, preferably guidance from somebody who knows what the heck they're talking about, but that's hard to come by. But if you can get a little experience with everything and develop those skills, great. Go on small adventures. Go on small hikes creatively. Get to know what your mind does when you start scope creeping, so that next time that you have crazy scope creep, you can identify it and you can navigate it. So get to know the options that you have. You can't take every road, but take the ones that appeal to you and get to know them a little bit, and then just do that journey, right? Finish that journey and then go on another one. Because sometimes we look at a poem like The Road Not Taken and we go, oh, that's about the entire path of my life. Whatever decision I make now, that is everything. That is the next 5, 10, 20 years. No. Take small roads, get to know them, and you will get to a point where you can look down the road and you can see just a little bit. You can see, oh, there's where those brambles turn, and there's where this is, and whatever. And you can listen and you can go, oh, are there bears in there? You can notice what might be ahead of you, and you can decide whether or not to take that path. And when you run into surprises, you can be ready for it. You can go, ooh, if I go this way, it seems like I'm going to run into scope creep. It feels the way that scope creep feels. Am I prepared to deal with that right now? This road seems to have a lot of art assets that I don't know how to deal with. Do I need to get help with that? Do I need to go down a different path? What's the plan? Don't just assume that you can look down the road on a 10-year project, having never made something like it before, having never made anything like it before, and go, yeah, I can do this. I can figure it out. Take on a 6-month project. Take on a 2-week project. Learn to track a bear based on its paw prints. Learn to find berries that help you sustain yourself on the road. Learn what the path is going to be like before you commit so aggressively to some huge, huge thing. Because you can start to map out the invisible consequences of your choices just a little bit. And you can start to know what's ahead of you. Not really. No one can tell the future. But you can read the landscape of development just enough to get by. All right, folks, that is basically everything that I've got for you this week. Now, I do have a little celebration to share with you, I guess, a little brag. I've been making progress on a small thing that I'm working on. This is part of the inspiration for this episode. I'm trying to take on smaller ideas. I'm trying to explore the wilderness a little bit and learn to create a map so that when I start a project, I really know what I have to deal with. And I've felt it, and I've felt the calluses on my feet and the blisters, and I know what to get to prevent that, and so on and so on. And I'm trying to do that by creating a lot more small projects and then maybe putting them together in a little binder, like little screenshots and whatever else, and make a little portfolio, not for professional reasons, just for myself. Just something to make me go, oh, I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this other thing. Because I think that's nice. Sometimes, I think it was inspired by the drawing that I've been doing, and being able to turn back a few pages and go, oh, this is how far I've come. So, in the project that I've been working on, I just want to be able to move around on a little map, talk to people, and then maybe fish, maybe have an inventory system with fish that I've caught, and then be able to give those fish to the people that I talk to as like a turning in a quest kind of a thing. Right? These are all very basic features, I guess, but I've never done this before, so I'm getting to know it. And I like that. Not everything has to be a grand project. Not everything has to be released, so on and so on. Like, I have that urge, but like sometimes you just got to go on a nice little walk. And I'm trying to just go on a nice little walk a little bit more and just enjoy what I'm doing. Now, I need to have a question for you guys for discussion. But what do I have? What's a good question for you guys? Give me one moment. I'll come up with something. All right, I've got it. This may not be as positive as usual, but the question is, what is the scariest part of developing a game for you? That's the question. For me, I have no idea. I don't know. I think it's expectations that I put on myself, if I'm being honest. I think the scariest part of it, yeah, that's it. The scariest part of developing a game is the expectations that I put on myself. That's not the most easy to converse about or interesting answer, but that is what it is. That is also all that I have for you all this week. Thank you, as always, for joining me. I will see you in the Discord. And everybody get in there, brag about what you're doing right now. Show me some screenshots. Let me see what you've been developing, all right? I'll see you over there. And if not, I will be talking with you in a week. Have fun. Get out there. Oh, wait. Oh, man, I screwed it up. Oh, no. It's fine. Oh, play Mewgenics. Mewgenics is awesome, dude. It's really good. Until next time, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.